Joining the debate tonight in our studios in Delhi, we have Arindam Chaudhary, economist and management guru. To his left, we have Naveen Chopra, chairman of the Chopras, one of the largest global education companies. Professor P.V. Indaresan, the very respected former director of IIT Madras. To his left is the former principal of Delhi's prestigious Hindu College, Dr. Kavita Sharma. From our studios in Bangalore, we have Mohandas Pai, former director HR Infosys and an entrepreneur now. And Madhu Prasad is member of the All India Forum for Right to Education. Now, I just want to open this up. I don't want to go into technicalities. But there are a lot of people here, Professor Indaresan, who are upset with this, with what is going to be the impact of this Right to Education Act. They're upset. They say it is unthought of. It's not going to achieve the results. It's going to take away quality education. Parents will be upset. This is not the way to go forward. The government has shifted the responsibility to private institutions without thinking of the long-term impact. What are your thoughts? Are they right?
The issue here is this: why 25%? Should it not be 30%? Should it not be 20%? Should it not be 50%? There seems to be no logic in the Supreme Court order. That's point number one. Number two, there is a very well-known principle in economics called the Pareto principle, according to which the top 50% of the population spend 80%, bottom 50% spend 20%. So you could say the Supreme Court could have said, admit 50% of the bottom half of the population. And
you think 25% is too less?
25% is too less, but charge them only 20% or 1/4 of whatever you charge rest of the people. And if they cannot pay, the government should pay. After all, the government is responsible for educating everybody, whether they're rich or poor. And I'm afraid that this 25% will be captured by people who are not really the poor people. That's
but even 25% is being opposed. Why? Let's get Arindam in. Why? I mean, you're one of the entrepreneurs of private education. Why should education be the sole purview of the rich?
No, it should not be.
But it has become.
It's unfortunate that it has become, and I think this Right to Education Act is a fantastic act, and it's a very welcome decision by Supreme Court. Unfortunately, what's happening is, because of this decision, it's also a lot of private players are going to be forced to secure about 25% of the seats for the poor. And
what's unfortunate about that?
Not actually unfortunate. The point is that many of these would argue that, well, we were not prepared and we got to now increase our fees. So
why should they increase the fees?
No,
this act says that private schools will be reimbursed by the state for admitting 25% of the students. So its private institutions cannot complain about the financial burden. I'm sorry, but it appears to me that the only stumbling block here are social barriers. That are so entrenched in our society that it is causing schools to protest. Let's get Madhu Prasad in. Miss Madhu Prasad, what do you think is the barrier that is still to be crossed here? What's the problem?
You know, I think the issues, I don't know what you have so far discussed, but the issue seems to be one, we don't seem to be talking about there are difficulties and problems in this act itself. But I think what is most significant in the Supreme Court's judgment is that they have recognized the very limited autonomy of private unaided education. You see, these schools, which claim to be private, claim to be completely autonomous, are in fact dependent on the public system and the public funded system of education, not only for priority and preferential and concessional rates of land and infrastructure, but they are also dependent on the public funded system for their structure, academic structure, their curriculum, their syllabi, their mode of evaluation.
I'm on a very basic issue. Dr. Madhu Prasad, I think I'm on a very basic issue.
All these issues, these institutions are in fact dependent on the public funded system, and I think the Supreme Court has recognized this by saying that you have a limited autonomy, you must open your doors.
No, I'm on a more basic issue. India has become a country with a deep chasm between the haves and the have-nots.
Correct.
And today, after this came out, there are so many parents who are saying, is that so? Is our privileged child going to have to sit next to, maybe, someone from a very underprivileged background? Is that why I pay such high fees to send a child to that school? To which a counter question is, today, should the doors of the, Dung school or a modern school be opened up? Not in evening classes put separately for the students, but within the class themselves. Is that going to happen, Dr. Sharma?
No,
Kavita Sharma, do you think it's going to happen?
I think it's already happening. Yeah, I think it's already happening. I think the idea is that the gap between the haves and the have-nots, the privileged and the not so privileged,
yes,
is widening, which has great sociological, societal repercussions. And to me at least, therefore, there is nothing wrong with having 25%. In fact, it should be a welcome move. It will make both sides realize what life is about on the other side of that divide. But
then why are parents and institutions opposing?
It's privilege and entitlement.
Yes.
But I would also say that the other side to that is that you have to increase the quality of your government schools. Now, unless you do that, you're only looking after 25%. What about the rest of the 75%? They also have to go somewhere, no?
That's true. Are you saying the government is shelving its responsibility to private institutions?
Certainly.
Well, it is.
You think that's what's happening here?
Yes, because the government schools are the taxpayers funded schools completely. And they must, I'm not saying that you don't put this 25% or 30% or whatever percentage you arrive at by some formula. But what I'm saying is that where the government schools are there, where everything is...
But I'm on a very basic issue here, ma'am. I'm still searching for an answer on that. I'm not looking for the structural issue. I'm talking about the mindset issue.
Yes, the mindset is, of course,
there. The mindset issue is why should these privileged kids in privileged schools...
I totally agree with you. The mindset
they will get the wrong values.
And not only that, I hear people saying, oh, now these kids will have to be counseled. I think the other way around, it's the rich kids who will have to be counseled to figure out how life is on the other side. And
people are not ready.
But they have to be ready. They will never be ready.
Let's get in Dr. Mohandas Pai. They're coming to you, Naveen Chopra. I want a view on the other side as well. Mohandas Pai, what's going on here? I mean, do you think that we can one day say that not just 25% but 50% of the schools should have reservation for those from underprivileged backgrounds? There are a lot of parents who say that we pay a lot of money, we worked very hard all our life to be able to pay the money to send our child to a privileged institution, and that is a meritocracy at work. What would you say to them?
No, Arnab, I would say that the school should reflect the diversity of a society. The schools will reflect the fact that we have a poor part of society, we have a middle class, we have a richer class, we have various regions. So the children in the school should reflect the diversity of society. And any school which is exclusivist, which keeps out the great majority of people, should be shut down. There is no room in this country for a school only for the rich. There is no room in this country for a school which is discriminating against the great majority of people. Now that's the principle that we should follow, and to an extent we have poor people coming in, I think is welcome. But Arnab, look at a larger issue which is much more important. Yes, some parents have this attitude, I'm paying money, but I think that's a very specious argument and we must push it down, because that kind of argument cannot be allowed in any civilized, democratic, open society like India. But look at the larger issue. We have 225 million children in school. 75% study in government schools. Out of the balance 25%, only 10% are some good schools, out of which 5% are outside the Supreme Court because they are minority unaided. So this is going to have a very small impact of 1% of children. Maybe 200,000 children a year, maybe 2 million children in all. So the larger issue which you must say is, what about the quality for everybody? Like everybody said, that's the larger issue. This right to education is giving the government inspector the power to meddle in the affairs of the few good schools and bring in cronyism into a good part of our school education.
Our entire society today is about chasm and divide. We have the greatest divides in our society. We've chosen to live with it. Why should we live with it? And do you think tomorrow a child who goes to that school, I want to put the flip argument. Some people say, you take an economically backward child and you put him, say, in the most high-end private schools, that will be detrimental to the psyche and the psychology of that child. Would you agree with that argument? Some parents put that argument across.
No, I mean, I'm afraid that is not the argument. But just stepping on, one of the things that's related is the minority institutions being exempt, for example. Why? As a matter of fact, why should minority institutions exist the way they do? Why not 25% reservation in minority institutions for people from other communities? Now, when it comes to 25% reservation, Arnab, if the school has been allotted subsidized land, if the school has been aided by the government and so on, you have every right to do it. But if there's a private entrepreneur who invests millions of rupees, goes and buys land at market prices, sets up the infrastructure, does it.
What is the social responsibility of that person?
Yes, but the only way that you should...
No, but what is the social responsibility of that person?
Has to be, please.
If there's a social responsibility a hospital has,
yes,
the hospital has to treat a certain number of people from weaker sections.
Correct.
Why should a school not have it?
Give them the tax breaks. If the private institutions are paying taxes, give them tax breaks and encourage them to create this.
Do you not think that today, for example, you go to any metro, the divide between those who go to the top end schools and those who go to the schools where the government hasn't cared enough to change the basic structure and facility, it's so wide.
Yes,
we are going to sit on top of a social implosion one day.
We are
with the sheer nature of the divide among the people. We are creating that divide.
We are.
Why are we allowing it?
I'll tell you, because of the skewed policies all the way through. I mean, you are looking at a very fundamental issue. One of the core issues that confront people who are able to afford is the issue of reservation. All of this, is coming on. Acha, yaar, wahan pe itna reserve ho gaya, abhi this is also being reserved. Main kya karu? What am I going to do?
No, this is about creating opportunity at an earlier level.
I think not just if you go to metros, even in your own homes, the 50 feet that separate the house, the room of your domestic help and your own house, we inhabit two different worlds as far as opportunities for our children are concerned. So I think we are sitting on a social implosion. But that's what I'm trying to say, that unless the government improves its schools, there's going to be mushrooming of private schools, which is what has happened. And those private schools, they are not high-end ones. And people are spending a lot of money at the lower economically.
But ask Arindam whether if he had a school, he would put 25% seats. I asked him about his MBA institute. And I'm sorry, Arindam said a no.
Yeah, I said a no.
He said a no but I argue with you, Arindam, that education is not about a business model.
No, absolutely. Arnab, you have to get my point right. First of all, if I would have had a private school and Supreme Court would say, and even if in my institute, tomorrow the court says that you reserve 25% for the poor, I would very happily do it. That's full stop.
But why should the court say it? You should do it on your own.
No, I wouldn't do it on my own because of the same logic that, there are cost implications and a private initiative is definitely about...
Professors
there is a responsibility of the government to educate every child.
Absolutely.
Now the Delhi government says they will pay 1,190 rupees for any child who is admitted, which I think is ridiculous because in a good school the charges could be at least 50,000 rupees and you are paying only 2% of that. Now that is not the way, and also the government school does not pay taxes. It does not pay many of the costs the private school does, and therefore proper thing is this, let it pay at least 20% of the cost. This is according to the
and also when I say